Well, they got me with this one on the Connors. Very emotional episode, I must say. Let's talk about the Grad finale. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Connors review for the finale of season 5. The Grad finale is what it's called, and it may indeed be the series finale of the Connors as well. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It has not officially been picked up for season 6. I think probably it will be, but there's a lot of interesting factors with this show, especially with the writer's strike looming and all of this. So we'll talk about that in a second. Also, in addition to this particular episode, I will give my sort of overview of the whole season, and I'm going to give not just my episode grade for the Grad finale, but I'm going to give my season 5 grade as well towards the end of this episode. But before we get into all of that, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do the Connors reviews every single week. There is a new episode. We've been doing that since season 10 Roseanne reboot. So you can check out all of my videos in that regard. I have them in different playlists. You can just go through the whole season, at a time and check out my thoughts. And it'll be interesting because I think whether there is a season 6 or not, I believe the Connors will probably be going into syndication in the fall. So yeah, even though there's no DVD releases, which kind of stinks, we will be able to see. Now, I don't think Roseanne season 10 will probably be a part of that package, unfortunately. I mean, that's just my guess as a, sort of, I was in radio for many years, and I took a lot of broadcasting classes in college. I think rights-wise, it just doesn't make sense that Roseanne season 10 would be part of any syndication package of the Connors. But there's now, enough episodes to run the show 5 days a week in syndication. So it'll be interesting to see, some of the older episodes that I have not seen since they first aired. But my reviews are certainly up for all the episodes, so you can kind of watch along there. Also, please consider subscribing down below because not only, yes, we're going to take a break, obviously, for the summer for the Connors reviews, but I do a bunch of movie and TV reviews on the channel. I try to post something new just about every day, at least 5 or 6 times a week. So please check out the other stuff on my channel if you enjoy my Connors review. All right, so before we even launch into this episode, I will say on these Connors reviews, I do spoilers. So, if you haven't seen the episode yet, maybe you watch the episode and then come back, if you care at all about spoilers, because let's talk about sort of the elephant in the room with this episode. Johnny Galecki, who plays David, Mark's father, and Harris's father as well, that we grew up with, back in the old Roseanne days in the 90s. He was maybe going to be in this episode. I didn't really think that would come to be. I thought maybe that would be something interesting. But I honestly thought once Big Bang Theory ended, we might see more of the David character. But they've made him such a deadbeat dad, such an unlikable character on this show that I guess it's probably just as well. But I know I've been engaging with a few of you in the comments in the last couple of weeks about, hey, is David going to come back for this episode? And in the trailer for this finale, we see Mark entering in the kitchen and saying, oh, Dad's coming to my graduation. I figured if they were going to tout it like that, it probably was a ruse, and Johnny Galecki would not be appearing, and indeed that is what has happened. So no Johnny Galecki in this episode. I also don't think we saw Jaden Ray, unless I sort of blinked and missed her, but I don't believe we saw her either. It was just really the core family, and then, of course, Louise, who really is core family now anyway. I mean, not that Mary kind of isn't, but she's hardly in the episodes. So why would she be in this one, really? But, all right. Before we get any further, though, into the Grad finale, let's talk about the whole season 6 thing. So it has not been officially renewed for a season 6. Is it going to come back? I believe it will. It is one of the top comedies on television. I believe it is ABC's top comedy. Modern Family was for a while, and then once that left the air, I believe that the Connors is firmly in that #1 spot. We talk about this all the time on the channel, but I think they only have 4 comedies, right? Because they've got Not Dead Yet, the Goldbergs, the Connors, and then Home Economics. Is there another one? There must be another one on Wednesdays, right? Blackish is over. Well, the Wonder Years will be coming back this summer, I guess. But in any event, oh, Abbott Elementary, of course. Well, okay, never mind then. After Modern Family left the airwaves, The Connors was the number one comedy on ABC. But since then, I have to think it's Abbott Elementary. But in any case, The Connors is the number 5 or 6 comedy on all of broadcast television. So I think that speaks for its viewership and people wanting to see more of this family. So, okay, sure, it's no Abbott Elementary, but I think it deserves a 6th season. People are, still wanting more. But here's the issue. Well, there's a few issues. Number one, the writer's strike. If you have not heard yet, I don't know if it's officially on yet, but they are going to be striking, and this happened about 15 years ago to some disastrous results. A lot of seasons were cut short from it. A lot of storylines were just sort of, Heroes was a show that I know was affected greatly by it. Lost, I think, was probably affected a bit by it as well. Because when writers are off for, 2-3 months, and then, it's hard for them to get back in the groove of the storylines and everything. So I think some shows will not quite have decisions made for a little while. I thought we would get some news about that at the ABC Upfront in a couple weeks, but with the writer's strike, who knows? So that's number one. Number two, the creators and producers of The Connors have stated that season 6 could potentially be their last season if it does get renewed, which is kind of a bummer. But at the same time, no reboot has gone 6 seasons, at least not in the comedy realm. I mean, Full House went a few. Will and Grace, I think, had 3. So 6 seasons on a reboot would be really incredible. And when it comes down to it, really 7 if they get a 6th season, because that Roseanne season 10 really does count as the first reboot season, right? So, all right, we'll see. But this episode, this finale, grad finale, really could easily serve as a series finale too. And I think it was probably written that way. I think they wrote it with that in mind. And in fact, to sort of stoke the the Writers Guild list or whatever, most episodes are written obviously by sort of a collective, but one person kind of gets their name put on as, okay, this was the writer, the quote unquote main writer of this episode. This episode, well, you've got the teleplay by Dave Kaplan and Emily Wilson, and the story by Bruce Helford, Jana Hunter, and Mitch Hunter. So these are all people that have worked on The Connors really for a long, long time, and Roseanne, some of them. So they've all got their name on this episode, and that to me also says, okay, a lot of cooks in the kitchen means this could potentially work as a series finale, and they all wanted to get sort of one last hurrah in there with their name on the script. So I don't know. I do think it will probably be returning, but no word yet. So we'll just have to keep our ears out for that one. All right. Can we finally now talk about this particular episode? Yes, we can. So this was the grad finale, meaning Mark's graduation. And of course, he's the smartest kid in the room, so he is the valedictorian. But they only give each kid 3 tickets. So it's a little bit of a debate of who's going. The 3 tickets in Darlene's mind is Darlene, Ben, and Harris. The core family there for Darlene. However, Mark comes in and says, "Oh, Dad called and he's going to come." So now Harris might not be going or what have you. But this causes a huge stir, and really for the first time in, I think, quite a while. There's only one plot in this episode. I mean, I guess there's sort of a minor plot with the other people in the family not really getting their due at graduation, whether that was getting a GED or whether or not, that was, Jackie graduating and her parents didn't come and whatever. So that sort of is a running thread, but it's all about graduation. So it's all kind of tied in. Anyway, Darlene texts David and says, listen, don't promise that you're going to come if there's even a question that you're not. And Mark is very upset about this, not only flies off the handle at her, but Ben tries to sort of talk to him about it, and he goes off on Ben and says, well, you're not my dad, F yourself, basically. And Didn't love that. We'll get into that in a second. But Darlene, basically after Ben leaves the room, points out that, listen, kid, Ben has been there for you for years, doing everything that a father does because your dad wasn't around, isn't around. And he is in fact, the entire reason that you're going to college. Which Mark thought, oh no, mom, you did that. You decided to get a job as a lunch lady at the school so I could get free or cheap tuition. And she corrected him and said, no, no, sonny boy, that was all Ben. I actually didn't think that was a great idea because this family needed the money, and Ben said he would sacrifice for you. So great, love that. So then he brings the whole family together. Mark does, knowing that most of them won't be able to attend the graduation and hear his speech. So he's like, hey, I want to practice my speech on you guys, this and that. And he starts talking about, oh, all the people in my life that have helped me out, gotten me to where I am today. And first, I want to talk about my dad. And of course, Ben thinks, oh, enough about David. But I don't know how you felt about it. I knew that he was going to give some nice speech about Ben and how Ben's, kind of his real dad because he's the one who's been there, blah, blah, blah. But regardless of what I thought, it still got me. I was crying. It was a good emotional scene because, look, we've grown up with this family. I am the same age as Darlene and David for that matter. But, we've seen Mark grow up from probably when the first season started, maybe 11 or 12 or something, when Roseanne season 10 happened. And now he's, graduating high school. So it's like we've sort of watched him grow up as well, just like we did with the cast in the original. And so it was very, very emotional. And I love the Ben character. I've always loved him. J.R. Ferguson, what a funny guy, what a cool dude. He is the kind of person that I feel like you would want to I don't drink beer really, but just go sit and have a beer with and just chill. And he just seems like a fun guy. I've always loved the Ben character. And so I really liked the emotional nature of that scene. And really, I did think that Mark was being a little bit unfair to him, but at the same time, not really. I mean, I feel like, look, I've known a lot of kids in my life, both when I was a kid and through mentoring, through different programs, that and people I've worked with, that have had an absent dad, and they sort of come back into the kid's life, in the middle teen years, and usually it does not end well. In most cases, I'm very lucky in that my parents are still together and they're celebrating 50 years of marriage in the fall, and they still love each other and everything. But I know a lot of kids and have known a lot of kids throughout my life where that's not the case, and their dad isn't there. So I get his anger in thinking, hoping, because they do that. You hope that your father is at your graduation. You hope that he's going to realize what a jerk he's been for the last whatever years and whatever. So I have some emotional thoughts about that whole plot line. Yeah, maybe he was being a little jerky to Ben and his mom, maybe too, to the people who raised him. But there was a comment about, I think Ben said it, basically, I forget what it exactly was, but basically it was, the one who gets crapped on is the parent who is there, the parent who stayed, because they're there to unload on. And that made a lot of sense to me too. So there were a lot of emotional moments with that whole plot line. But then I got choked up again at the end because the wonderful Katie Seagal as Louise, she came in and was bringing together a party for Mark for the family to enjoy, especially because most of them would not be at his graduation. And unbeknownst to the rest of the family, Louise and Mark, and I'm guessing Darlene and Ben were in on it too, had sort of a backup graduation or whatever in mind for the rest of the family members who never got to walk at their own graduation or whose parents were not there or what have you. And in the process, we see pictures of them when they were in high school, including Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman. I'm getting a little choked up again thinking about it. It was a very emotional scene. It was really touching, and it's why I do think if this is the series finale, and I don't want it to be, but if it is, I really it was just a great finale, whether it's season finale or series, because it really did kind of bring things full circle, with those photos of well, and it reminded me a little bit too of the original run of Roseanne when in, I guess it was the final season, season 9, or maybe season 8 too, when they had the cast sort of morph into old pictures of themselves, through the years of the show. It sort of reminded me about that a little bit. So it sort of came full circle, I thought, in that regard too. So anyway, really it was just the one theme. It was all about the graduation, but I thought this was a great episode, a great finale, emotional for sure. Some laughs in there too. Definitely not the funniest of the season, but definitely some good laughs throughout. But really, more than that, the emotional nature. And I always say this, I do think the best episodes of The Connors and the original Roseanne show are the ones that really blend that comedic nature with some serious issues. And I think a kid graduating and having his father not there, a father who's not been even in his life the last many years, I think is very emotional. And I love that Ben got the chance to be told, how important he is to that family. He's been a great father to Mark. I mean, I guess Harris too, but she was kind of grown up already by the time he came around. So, anyway, so I guess that's about enough of the episode. We should get to the season on the whole, right? But first, I guess let's grade this episode. It's another really good one. I really do think if it is the series finale, I think it's a great one. If it's just a regular episode, a season finale, if you will, I think it's a very good one. But in any case, enjoyable. I leave it with an A. I think it is not the best of the season. Probably, I think I've given maybe 3 A's this season. This is probably the third one in that line or something. But it got me. It certainly, I think, was the one that made me cry the most. Also, something that happened early in the episode, when they were talking about having the grad party at the lunchbox. They sort of were talking about, oh, the lunchbox has been so important to this family for X, Y, and Z, and they listed all these like bad things, where Roseanne got robbed, and Jackie buying it sort of split the family up, and then she slapped Darlene at Thanksgiving. So that again, kind of a series finale kind of thing to do, going through the list of other things. So that's unfortunate. I don't have an MVP for this episode because everyone was amazing. I mean, Ben certainly could get it. Mark could get it. But I think it would be appropriate just to kind of leave the episode as it is and not name, who was the standout necessarily, because it was a great ensemble episode. As for the season, I've been saying it for the last few months here. I think this is the best season we've gotten of The Connors. And not only that, not only is it, I think, the best season of The Connors, but I think it is the best season we've gotten of this family since probably Roseanne's season 5, maybe. I mean, like, the last few seasons of Roseanne, sort of declined, and you can check those out in my season wrap-up videos. Back a few years ago when the reboot happened, I did season by season going through the old Roseanne show, and it really kind of falls off a cliff after seasons 5 and 6. 7, 8, 9, like 9 especially horrible, but even 7 and 8 were not. They were good. They had some shining moments, but this season is, I think, the best of this family since probably season 5 of the original show. I didn't give any A pluses this season. I will say that I've given, I think, at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 overall for the whole series. Slappy Holidays was certainly one, and I'm pretty sure I gave the gun episode last year an A plus as well. But no A pluses this season. But consistency. Almost every episode has been, a B plus, an A minus, or an A. I think maybe there were one or two Bs, maybe. But again, this is the longest season as well. I've talked about that a lot lately too. 22 episodes for this season, which means, there's bound to maybe be, maybe not a stinker in the mix, but one that's a bit, less than the rest of them. And yeah, okay, I had one or two Bs, but I think every other season past has had at least one or two B minuses, C pluses, something lower than a B. So this season, even though we haven't had any A pluses, has been consistently great throughout. And I will say that yeah, I've had a bit of a problem with how Darlene was presented in the middle of the season here. She was getting kind of difficult to like. She was really being kind of nasty to the family, and there were a few instances of that with other people too. I thought Dan stepped over the line once or twice with Jackie. But by the end of the episode, he usually bounced back. Darlene was like on this sort of sliding scale of just not being a character you could get behind after a little while. But these last like 3-4 episodes have really sort of reversed all of that too. And look, at the time, we know she was out of work and depressed, and so that could play a factor too. But just the way that they were writing her, I didn't love, and I voiced that here on the channel. But look, I've always said that DJ would not be missed. Hey, let's write him out. I've said that since the beginning because they were never utilizing him. The fact that he wasn't in one episode this season, didn't matter one bit. The show certainly went on without him, and was probably even better for it because it always seemed sort of shoehorned in when he was there. But Katie Seagal, great addition. I know she's not a regular cast member, but loved having her aboard in more capacity. And Neville, too. Neville was a lot of fun, too, played by Nat Faxon. So this really was a great season. If it's the last one, I don't think it will be, but if it is, I think they've gone out on a high note. If next season's the last season, I think that will also probably be going out while people are still wanting more. You don't want to be the Goldbergs, or Modern Family for that matter. Modern Family really was long in the tooth by a couple of years by the time that left the airwaves. I feel the same about the Goldbergs now, which is in its 10th and final season and should have probably ended like 3 years ago. So, the Connors doesn't want to be that, I hope. But in any event, I hope and think that we will get a season 6. Don't know, but if this was the series finale, I think it was a damn good one. So I will give the season 5 of the Connors. I'm giving the whole season an A. I know that's not really an average of all the grades, but in terms of season over season, I think it's the best one we've had yet. So thank you so much for watching my videos. Again, think about subscribing down below there. Check out my other videos on the channel. It's not just all about the Connors all the time. I know many of you wish it was, probably, but I do a lot of great movie and TV reviews on the channel, so would love for you to check some of those out as well. And if you don't, and your next visit is Connors Season 6 premiere, well, then I'll see you in a few months, right? So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.